Okay, so when you pull into your camp spot, you want to see how close to level the RV is. You can put an app on your phone to measure level and just set it here on the floor and see. And you want to be close to level. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it does help for your comfort. Things like the refrigerator do not require that you be level. Worst case scenario is you're chasing water down a drain because everything's not perfectly level. And once you've got that set, if you're not quite level, we've got some blocks around back here that we can use to level things up. So let's go look at those. In the back here is our equipment cabinet. In here we have a bunch of things. And these are the leveling blocks that we use. These stack like Lego bricks. So you can make a little ramp that you can drive up so that the low side of your vehicle can be leveled up. You can affect about 3 inches of change to the height of the vehicle with these. So what we want to do though is get our vehicle hooked up. So we want to grab this bag, which is our power cords. You can take that around here. So this is the power outlet for the vehicle, or power inlet rather. And in this bag, we have the 30 amp power cord for it. So there's a little L-shaped hole right there that matches with this little L-shaped piece of metal here. Slides on, just a slight twist clockwise to lock it in, then you can tighten this collar with the plug end. It's going to go into a breaker box that's in your camp spot. Make sure the breakers are turned off before you plug this in. Once this is plugged in, you can go and turn the breakers on. This little light right here should glow blue if everything's flowing okay. If there isn't a plug that looks like this on your breaker box, we've got adapters in this bag. One for a 50 amp plug and one for a 15 amp plug. If there's a 50 amp, use that. If there's nothing else, you can use a 15 amp. In all cases though, you want to make sure that you have that breaker box off while you're plugging everything in, and then turn it on when you're done. Okay. The other thing you're going to want to know about then is how to get water into the RV. So this RV is really made to a boondock. In other words, work without water and power being connected to it. But this facility back here is where we connect everything to do with water. And in this storage cabinet right here, we have a couple things. We have some sanitary gloves. We also have our fresh water hose. And our fresh water hose, we always store that with the ends connected so we're not getting contamination in there. And we always separate it right at this orange knob. So when we go to connect the RV to water, the orange goes on the hose bib that's out at your campsite. So you'll fasten that on there, turn the hose bib on and run some water through this hose to flush it out. Turn it off. And then you bring this hose right over here and you tighten it into here. This is, you're turning it to the left to tighten it. Now at this point you have a choice to make. You can fill the water tank up in here and just draw from the water tank, or you can leave the hose out the door to the hose bib and leave the door partway open so that the hose doesn't get pinched. If we just want to dry camp, in other words, just draw from the tank, we use this pattern here. So lever down, lever up, up, and sideways, okay? If we want to use the water straight from the hose bib, we use this pattern, city water. So down, sideways, up, sideways, okay? If we want to actually fill the tank from the hose bib, we're going to use this pattern here. Okay. If we wanted to, let's say we didn't have access to a hose bib and we had like a 5-gallon bottle we wanted to pump out of, we could use this sanitize position here, which will actually siphon water out of a bottle into our water storage tank, in which case it would look like this. Okay. For most people, you're going to either be using dry camp or city water, and then when you fill your tank during dry camp, you'll use the power fill. Okay, don't worry about winterize. We won't be using that at all. So for now, we're going to leave this on dry camping because that is the mode we're going to use this in. And when we're dry camping, to get water to the faucets and the toilet and the shower, we got to make sure we have the water pump turned on. And there's a switch right here for the water pump. You'll hear it purr for a minute as it pressurizes the system. Okay. The other thing to notice back here is you see this faucet with the jack on it. This hose right here is what's used to plug into that. So this has this little jack here. This pushes back, it goes in, it pulls forward. And then this can be used to spray, you know, whatever, your dog and your feet. Or you could even use this to take a shower back here. In fact, these little rods right here on the door join together with a pin, and then we have a curtain in the storage compartment right here that can hang from this and give you a privacy screen. Okay, so that's the water system here. There's a matching faucet to this up front, right by where the front door is when we come in. You can use that as well with this. We always want to store this in our hoses and cords in the bags that they were delivered to you on. Each has an intended purpose, and to avoid cross-contamination or mislabeling, we want to make sure that everything goes back in its labeled container. When we connect and disconnect this hose, water is going to spill on the floor. It happens every time. We have this little rag here to help mop that up. And just know that it's not a big emergency if we spill some water here as we're filling this up and taking it down. Okay, so let's go on inside, and then we'll set up the controls for operating the RV when we're occupying. So this is the control panel for this RV, and there's two main control panels here that we want to pay attention to. This first one is how we turn on and operate the hot water heater and the furnace. And so first thing we need to do is make sure that the gas is turned on. So this switch here, LP, liquid propane, want this in the on position. And then just outside the door, there's another switch we need to turn on. It's right down here. We want to make sure this is turned on. They both have to be on for the liquid propane to work. Okay, this control panel here has two buttons on it. This round one, that's also a button. And then there's a back arrow on it. So you hit enter on this, and then this control panel shows some icons. The one that's flashing is the one that's selected. So we can turn this knob to select different icons. We care about two icons on here. This first one, which is the cabin heat, and this is flashing here. I'm gonna hit the center of the knob. We'll turn to set the temperature we want, and then press the center of that knob again. That's gonna set the temperature. You'll notice a little flame right here. When that flame is on, it indicates that the furnace is turned on. When the flame is flashing, it indicates that the furnace is actively doing work to heat. Okay. The other icon we care about is the hot water icon. It's got 4 settings: off, eco, which is 104, hot, which is 140, and then boost, which turns off the cabin heat until the hot water is fully warmed up. Then it will turn the cabin heat back on. This can be up to 160. So, like the cabin heat, when we set it, we get an icon up here, and then this will flash indicating that's warming, just like that. We recommend eco for the hand washing and doing dishes. You can set it on hot for showers. Everything else is pretty much informational, so I ask that you stay away from those settings. All right, this other control panel over here is another one that's important. Because we are drawing water out of our storage tank, we want to make sure that the pump is on, and we see this little LED glowing, indicating that the pump is indeed on. As you recall, we turned it on in the back. There is a button right next to it though, actually right down here, that we can also use to turn on and off that pump. Okay. All right, other information that's available here. LPG is the LP gas or propane tank. So it's 2/3 full on this. Battery, it's completely charged. And then gray water tank, which is at complete empty. Okay, the other switch that's on here is the generator start button. And if we don't have shore power plugged in, the only way to operate the air conditioner on this vehicle or to get AC power to the outlets is to turn the generator on. So we press and hold this button until we hear the generator start. We release it and let the generator run. What's going to happen is the generator is going to idle for a while to warm up and stabilize its output. Once the generator has stabilized, it will connect to the power outlets in the RV and to the air conditioner. You'll hear a clunk come from the rear of the RV when that happens. It might take up to 30 or so seconds before that event occurs after we've turned it on. Anytime we start the generator, we want to let it run until that transfer does happen before we shut it off, so that we're not short cycling the generator and doing harm to the generator. And there we heard the clunk, and now it's connected and it's powering the outlets. So at this point we're going to actually go back while the generator's running, and I'll show you how to use the air conditioner. So the air conditioner controls are right here. It's the only place we can control it. This knob here sets the mode of the air conditioner. So low fan, high fan, low cool, and high cool. Okay. When you're turning the air conditioner on, you're running on the generator, start it at low cool. This will help the generator ramp up its power before we turn it on high cool and put more load on the engine. The other knob we have back here is the temperature control. Now the temperature control doesn't have any numbers on it, it's just a relative hotter, colder thing. And so you can turn this knob until you hear the generator kick in, or a little click come from here. You know it's kicked in. And just kind of set it till you find a comfort level that you like. Turn this back off, just rotate this knob back down to the off position. That's all there is to that. So let's go back to there's other things here. There's these vents that are directable and rotatable, and then there's also vents here and here that direct air. So let's go back to the control panel. There's one more switch to talk about. This switch right here is only for wintertime use, and what it does is it turns the heater on for the tanks that are underneath the RV. We don't want to use this at all during the summer months, only when it gets down to freezing. This control panel is purely informational. It's just telling us about how the solar panels, which are on the roof, are charging the batteries right now. We're going to go ahead and turn the generator off at this point by pressing the stop button and releasing it. And now the generator's turned off. So let's talk about the stove. Stove, super easy to light. You turn this knob till it's pointing to the flame. Then you press the ignite button. Hold this for a couple seconds and then release it. Now you've got the stove going, and you just set this to the temperature level you want. When you're done, you shut it all the way back off. That's it. There's instructions right here in case you need a reminder. And then this cover to go over it when you're done using it. Do not cook on top of this, please. Other things, the sink. Nothing special about the sink. The faucet works very much like you'd expect, just like at home. The way you check the water level in the tank is right here. There's a switch here, and then the water level shows in here. And you can see the level's way down here at the bottom right now. There's a feature on this RV that you might not see in most RVs, but it's a water recirculation system. And what this does is it uses the water pump to circulate the hot water in the supply lines of the RV, so that when we turn the hot water on, we don't have to wait a minute for the hot water to come from the tank and just go down the drain. Instead, the hot water is available right when we turn on at the valve, and so we've got hot water available to us right away. This helps us conserve the water that's in the tank when we're not connected to the city fill. All right, the bathroom. All right, so first thing is this travel lock. When we're driving, this should be locked. It holds the door tight against the cabinet. And it's really important that that be in place to preserve wear of the cabinetry. When it is unlocked, we want to pull from this handle. It's held by some really powerful magnets, and so when we're pulling it open, it feels almost like we're breaking it, but we're not. Just give it a firm tug. Okay. So a light switch here for the bathroom. In the bathroom, we have a few things going. Up here is a removable towel bar that we can take out if we need to use the shower. The shower itself, just a regular handle on a hose with hot and cold controls that we can mix the water to our comfort level. To use the shower, there is a shower curtain that we supply.
It's inside.
That actually snaps to these snaps up inside here. So there's one here, and they go all across the top of this this paneling here, and that's what protects the wood when we're in here using the shower. When we're done with the shower, we can put the towel bar back in to hang our towels. There's a waterproof toilet paper storage right here. And then we also have a waterproof garbage can down there. This is a heat vent, so that heat can be blown in here when it's cold out. And then the toilet has a few key components. This is the flush button for the toilet. So we just press and hold this to put water in the toilet. And in fact, the very first time we use the toilet after we've emptied the toilet completely, which is something we'll cover later, we want to put a pod in it that helps promote the breakdown of the waste that's in the toilet itself. And so to do that, we'll grab one of these pods from this bag here. And they'll be different colors. Sometimes they're clear, sometimes they're blue. In this case, they're black. We put that in the toilet. We close this lid, and then we flush it. We flush it by grabbing this lever and moving this all the way to the right, and then moving it back to the left. And you'll see it's gone. The reason we close the lid is because it's a pure gravity feed, and when it does dump, it can splash up so this keeps the splash from going everywhere. The other thing that's unusual about this toilet is this actually rotates, so you can set it to a position that's comfortable for you. Finally, to see how full the storage tank for the toilet is, there's an indicator way in the back here that will start as green and slowly turn to red as the tank fills. So keep a close eye on that. When that thing is fully red, that tank is very full, and you'll start getting backup in the toilet. That gets very messy when you're trying to pull that tank out. So do keep a close eye on that. Okay, a few other things. There's a table for in here. So the table has a leg for it that stores back behind the seat. And there's also the actual table itself that stores back behind the seat. Goes over the post, goes down just like that. And there's our table. This swings around. These seats can be turned to face the table, and to do that, on both these seats, on the inside corner, there is a handle. Over here, it says front corner is a handle that you can lift up, and then the seat will rotate, just like that. It's on both sides. Lift it up, the seat will rotate. And now you've got seating for 4 on this. Okay? All right, let's talk about the pop-up. So first we're going to take and put this table away, so we have room to do that. There's a little metal channel right back here that this table slides into, so be careful to make sure that the table edge goes in there so it's not loose when you're traveling. And then this metal post goes in here and locks into these clamps. Okay, the pop-up. Okay, first of all, we've got these safety latches right here that need to be released. Then these latches here twist, the handle folds flat this way, and then they lift up and stick on these magnets that are just above it. So we unlatch, fold it over, stick it up, okay? And then once we've got that done, we need to lift it up. You just press it up and it lifts. And then finally, to get up there, we need to assemble the ladder. There's 2 pieces to that. Latches here on the sides. And then the ladder has these hooks on the end that go over these pieces of plastic right here. Boom. And now you can get up into the area up there. And you'll see, as you look around up there, that we have zipper windows on the side. One is a venting window. There's a screen. The other is just a plastic window. And then in the very front, if you look around, there's another zipper window here. And there's also a zippered screen behind this, so that this can be used as a fire escape or emergency escape if it's necessary. You can slide down the front of the van to get out from the upper area. Okay. So before we go to bed for the night, we're going to want some privacy. So we're going to want to close all the blinds. So we go through the windows inside and zip these up like this. These exist on all the inside rear windows. For the front though, we have some special blinds, and those are stored up here in this shelf. So we have these pieces that go into the windshield, and then the sun visor flips down, and there's a piece for both sides. And then on the side windows, we have these. And those are actually held in place by little magnets that are on the corner. And both left and right have pieces that fit for that. Then we'll want to, before we leave, want to make sure we open these all back up and we lock the windows so they're not moving. Let's talk about the rear bed. Oh, before we do that though, we're going to talk about the fridge. The fridge right here, travel lock right here. This handle lifts to open the fridge. Inside the fridge, there is a coolness setting that you can adjust if you need to. Up here is a freezer. You can get a small amount of ice cream up there. When you close the fridge, make sure that you're not pinching anything between this magnetic seal and the frame. If you do, the freezer will frost up very quickly in a matter of hours, and it will be difficult to open. Couple other things. These switches control our inside and outside lights, and you've got USB ports here as well as a 12-volt port. All the lights, the fridge, the control panels, those are all 12 volts. The only thing in here that uses AC power, 120 volts, is the air conditioner and the actual 120 volt outlets. So let's go back and look at the bed. The bed is held up by this. Pull that out. We gently fold this down. And then we fold this over. Okay? And that makes our bed. And then in one of these cabinets will be a, for this one, a queen size mattress cover that you should put over the entire mattress to protect it from damage. And then of course you can put your bedding on top of that, but the mattress cover, please be sure to install that to protect the upholstery. But when you're done with this, you just again fold this back, lift this up, and lock this in place. Okay. Other things to know then. At this point, we've kind of covered all the operational systems. Really, we need to learn now about how do we dump the tanks and how basically to tear down before we leave. So before you leave, and really before you dump the tanks, one thing you should do is make sure that all your control panels and your LP gas are turned off. So you would go over here and make sure your LP goes to off. Up in here, we take and go back into the panel here and select our RV, and we dial that temperature down to off. Go over to our hot water temperature and set that down to off. And then our water pump, we would turn that off. And if our generator was running, we turn that off at this time. We would also pull our the pop-up down. So to do that, we would grab these handles here and we would give this a gentle tug down, and then as it's coming in, there are these red handles inside that we would tug on to make sure that the fabric is well inside. We don't want the fabric pinched. And as it's coming down, we'll pull down on the front, make sure the front fabric is in. It's really important that the fabric be inside. If it is outside, there is a real chance that the pop-up could pop up while going down the road. We've had that happen to a customer before. So be careful that it's tucked inside. Now, once the fabric is inside, we need to secure the latches. So to do that, we go back in the corner, we push the fabric behind the latch, we bring the latch down, handle out, give it that twist, flip the handle up, put the safety latch on. We'll take this, tuck it back here in the corner so it's not flopping around. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Tuck the fabric in, flap the latch down, give the handle a twist, flip the handle up, put the latch in place, and again, tuck this up here, and then finally, we're going to tuck the fabric into this little spot right here for it. Make sure that this light is off, which is controlled by the switch up here. Okay? Now, we can go out and dump the tanks. At this point, I also want to turn off this switch right here for the propane. Right next door to it is the drain hose we're going to need for dumping the tank of gray water. So this little handle lever right here is the latch. Lift it up, grab the hose, and gently pull that out. We're going to take it around the other side of the RV. Then we're going to go back to our equipment cabinet. In the equipment cabinet, we're going to grab this elbow and this tool. We're also going to grab some sanitary gloves. And go around the side. All right, so for the gray water tank, the first thing we want to do is assemble the hose. So this goes on here like that, and then when we're at an RV drain place, this is going to go in the hole in the ground. We'll use this tool to remove this cap. And then we'll put this on here, like this. We're going to rotate. Sometimes this will be so sticky, we'll need to use this tool to actually get that pin to seat right in that hook. Okay, once that's set up and are into securing the dump, we're going to pull this handle out, just like that. And what that's going to do is dump all the gray water out of the tank through this hose. And we'll watch down here in this plastic elbow until the gray water stops flowing. Once it stops flowing, we'll push this valve back in. We're complete at that point. We can take this back off, put our cap back on. That, and then we can disassemble this hose. Before we disassemble the hose though, we're going to lift it up like this, and we're going to compress it to get all the water out of the folds, all that extra water that comes out, so that we're not getting that on ourselves when we're putting it back in the tube. And finally, we'll separate the elbow from the hose. Put the elbow in here, put our special tool in here, seal this back up. I'll go put this hose and tool bag away. Set the tool bag right there for the moment. And then to put this in, we hose up the tube and just gently work it in there. And once it's all the way in, we grab the door, we swing it around, and then finally we lift that, grab that lever and turn it to the down position. That's locked. All right, to empty the toilet cassette, we come and we put our hands like this, thumbs, push those two buttons to unlock it. Okay, here's the toilet cassette. This little blue handle needs to be lifted for it to come out. So we lift it and pull it out. Now, this should, if it's resisting, feels stuck. Okay, that should never happen. So go in and check the toilet to make sure that the flush lever is actually all the way closed. This should never require much more than a gentle pull to get out of here with that lever opened all the way. Once you've removed it, you might want to, if it needs to, you might push this all the way closed. But at this point, this needs to be brought to a toilet, a pit toilet, a regular toilet, whatever, or even a RV sanitation dump to dump this. And so when we go to dump it, what we do is we put this up, we remove the cap, take the cap off, set it down somewhere, and then in one smooth move, we're gonna take and tilt this and at the same time push this blue button while we dump the contents out into the toilet, okay? And as I'm gonna put this cap back on, because I wanna demonstrate some dumping and I don't wanna spill anything. As we tip this, we're gonna go up like this and then shake it like this so that everything comes out of this, okay? Put it back upright. It's really important to have that blue button pressed down when you're dumping it. This is the vacuum brake so that the contents flow smoothly out of here. Once you've got it dumped, take this to a faucet somewhere and fill it about a quarter of the way with water. And then take and shake it really hard like this in kind of a circular motion to knock anything loose. Go back to your toilet or your dump area, dump this out again. After you've completed that, you're ready to put it back in the cassette holder, and it just slides in like that. Okay? Now, when this thing's full, it's about 5 gallons. It's gonna weigh maybe 40 or so pounds or more. If you need to go a distance, there's a little handle that pops up here, and there's wheels on it that make it like a little piece of portable baggage. And you can take that where you need to. Okay? That's all there is to that. Now remember, that's the first time you use the toilet. Now after you've emptied it, you want to put one of those pods in it. Fill that bowl part way up with water, a good halfway up with water, throw one of those pods in, flush it down. That keeps that breakdown process going, okay? All right, the other thing you're gonna wanna do, of course, before you take off from your campsite is disconnect your power. So breaker box, you're gonna turn that breaker off. You're gonna back this collar off here. Give it a little gentle counterclockwise twist. Close this. It's gonna go back in a nice loop here. And then into the bag. Okay. We're gonna get these unsanitary gloves off. And we're gonna go put equipment away here in the storage area. So, we'll put your power away, your sewer away. Now before I do that, I want to introduce you to 3 other things that are in this cabinet. One is this box here, which is roadside service emergency triangles and flare kit. It's a tool kit in case there's minor repairs that need to be made. This is a fix-a-flat, automatic fix-a-flat kit. This vehicle does not carry a spare tire. And if you do have tire problems, we really want you to call roadside assistance to repair the issue for you. But in the event that you cannot reach roadside assistance for whatever reason, and the leak for the tire is evidently in the face of the tire, not the sides, you can use this kit here to fill that tire up. Follow the instructions. All right, so this goes back in here. This, if we're on any of these little pads here, we're gonna wanna move the vehicle so we can get off those pads and put those away. Close the cabinet back up. Finally, our water. If we haven't disconnected this already, we wanna do it now. Always connect these two ends together. Make sure it stays sealed in this bag. Just like this. This bag will say fresh water on it. Okay, cap back on, and we're done. We're done here with all this. We can close this up. So finally, we need to go talk about the cabin itself. I'm sorry, the cockpit of the vehicle. So let's go talk about how the different controls and things are used on that. So that's this way. The fuel filler for the vehicle's right here, in back of the driver's door. Nothing locking about this. It takes 87 octane unleaded fuel. Some states don't have 87, so go for 86 or 88, but try to stay right in that range. This is the lever for opening the hood. Pull this down, that unlatches the hood. Under the hood, of course, is where we would access things like refilling the wiper fluid, which is probably the most common thing people have to service when they're out with these RVs on a long-term rental. Okay, over here's the emergency brake, old school lever emergency brake, button on it. To get the vehicle to operate, we need to have both seats facing forward. So we're going to take and get this facing forward. We're going to go around and turn around the passenger seat as well and close the sliding door. You get in the passenger seat. All right, so in this vehicle, the place where you control the mirrors is right here. This has 5 different settings on this knob. 12, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock positions. And to adjust a mirror, you turn this knob to the position that reflects the mirror in the vehicle. So the 2 o'clock is the upper right, 4 o'clock, lower right, 8 o'clock, lower left, 10 o'clock, upper left, 12 o'clock is no mirror. So once you've selected the mirror, you just grab this knob and you tilt it around. It's like a joystick. And so it allows you to move the mirror in 4 different directions to position it. It's important that when you're positioning the lower mirrors, which are also called the convex mirrors, that those mirrors are positioned so that you can see where your rear tire is hitting the concrete or the asphalt. The reason that's important is that you do not want to be driving up on a curb with this vehicle. It only has 6.5 inches of ground clearance. Everything that hangs down that low is very expensive to hit with something. So the chances of damaging something really important on this vehicle, if you were to drive up on a curb, are very high. So want to make sure that we can always see where that tire is when we're driving, particularly when we're making tight right and left hand turns. Okay. All right, this button here folds the mirrors in and out. In fact, we'll turn on the vehicle right now to demonstrate some of these things. So in and out. These two switches are our windows up and down. This switch here locks and unlocks the side door and the rear door, but not the front doors. The companion switch to go along with that is this right here. This locks and unlocks all the doors in the vehicle, okay? All right, so the next switch to talk about is this what's called the bat boost switch, and it's kind of way over here in the corner. That switch is what we use for jump starting the vehicle in the highly unlikely event that our chassis battery dies and we can't get the engine to turn over. We can use the switch to jump the engine from the house batteries in the back. I've never had anybody had to use it, but that's what it's there for, okay? On the steering column, if you put your hand in the bottom of the column and reach way toward the front of the vehicle, there's a handle up here. And that handle, once it's loose, allows you to telescope but not tilt the steering wheel. Once you've got it to a position you're comfortable with, push that handle back to lock it in place. On the steering column are 3 levers that come off of it. So this top left lever is all about lights. This has got your headlights on and off. It's got your turn signals, and also has your high beam, low beam, okay? The next lever down, which is difficult to see, but it's right over here. This is cruise control, and that gets turned on by rotating this knurled knob, setting by lifting, resuming by pushing down, and canceling by pushing that in button, okay? This last lever up here is your washer, wiper, and trip computer. So we pull the lever down to control the wiper speed, and we rotate this collar to set the interval. And then to wash, we pull. And then this little button right here is the trip computer, and that changes this line of text we see up here in the top. There's a trip for A and B. So what I recommend you do when you get to trip A, you press and hold this button, and that's going to reset trip computer A so that when you leave on your rental, you can see exactly how many miles you've used on your trip. You can keep pressing this button. It'll go through trip computer B, and it will finally go back around to the date. And then the next step is the range, and that'll tell you how many miles to empty are left on your tank. This vehicle goes about 375 to 380 miles on a full tank of fuel. It averages around 18 miles to the gallon. All right, moving across the dash further. Over here, we have all of our standard HVAC controls that you'd find in any automobile. There's nothing special about these. Down on this control panel, we have fog lights right here. If you have the fog lights enabled, you won't have high beams available. This is the electronic stability control, enable or disable. I know of no reason to disable this, so probably just leave that alone. This is our hazard lights, and we touched on this. All right, the other thing that's notable on this vehicle is up here, this rear view mirror doubles as a rear view camera screen as well. And the rear view camera screen is made to look far behind the vehicle, which is different than the other rear view camera screen you'll get here, which will be right close behind the vehicle. So if we have the vehicle on and we're in reverse, we're going to get a view that's right close behind, and then up in here we can get a far away view. Now, if you don't want to be looking at a screen here and just want old school mirror, you can flip this lever down and you'll get old school mirror up here. Okay. All right, so the most important part of this training safety-wise has to do with shifting this vehicle. you're in a vehicle that is 12,000 pounds, just shy of 12,000 pounds when it's fully loaded. And what that means is that it is not possible to maintain a safe downhill speed over distances by using the brake alone on this. You have to use the engine to brake or slow the vehicle. Okay, and the reason for that is that the brakes will overheat if you try to use the brakes alone. All right, so when we're driving this vehicle and we're going to be going through a mountain pass, we got Interstate 5, going through the Siskiyous or Grants Pass, we want to turn on this feature called the tow haul button. Okay, what the tow haul button does is it tells the computer to shift the engine sooner going uphill and sooner going downhill. And when going downhill, what it's going to try to do is to maintain a safe vehicle speed as you're going down the hill by downshifting the transmission. What that's going to do over here is you'll see the RPM go up much, much higher as the computer shifts the engine down to try to maintain downhill speed. So what that looks like for us as a driver is this. We're going down a mountain pass, we have tow haul on, and when we just take our foot off the gas and to let the computer do its work. Now, the computer's going to try to slow the vehicle. If the vehicle keeps speeding up, say over 5 miles an hour from the speed that we started, the engine isn't able to do it. So we want to take and put our foot on the brake and drop our speed gently a good 10 miles an hour, and then take our foot off the brake again and let the engine try again. And if it keeps speeding up again, give it a 5 miles an hour, put your foot on the brake, gently drop 10 miles an hour, try again. Repeat that process until you reach a speed where the engine can maintain a safe downhill speed for the vehicle. That's called an equilibrium speed, which means the resistance down is now being matched by the resistance of the engine, so it's maintaining an equilibrium speed-wise. Okay, what that means though is you might be in a 65 mile an hour zone and you're going 30 miles an hour, and that's okay, that's normal. That's what big trucks have to do. That's what RVs have to do when they're going downhill. So just be aware of that. This tow haul feature may not work well if you're in very steep hills. In very steep hills, the only real way to use the engine to brake is to put this transmission in manual shift mode. And to do that, when we're in drive, we move the shifter over to the left, and you'll see these two little lights, that's minus and plus, light up. What that means now is that if we move the gear shift down, first of all, you'll see a 1 here. If we move the gear shift down, it's going to go to 2, and then 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. Okay, it has 6 speeds. When we lift up, it will go down to the lowest, safest gear that the engine's ready to go into. In this case, it's first because we're parked. If we were going downhill, it would go down 1, and then you can give it another lift, and it'll go down 2. What you can do then is manually shift down the engine till you get to a gear that the engine is able to maintain a safe downhill speed for the steepness of the hill and the speed that you're going. And again, in the event that when you lift this up and the engine won't actually shift down, that means that you're actually going too fast to shift down. Again, apply the brake, gently reduce your speed, and then try this again. It should shift down, and then you repeat that till you again hit an equilibrium speed where the engine is able to maintain a safe downhill speed for the vehicle. Okay? Okay, 2 further things. This vehicle chassis has a known issue where it will issue an erroneous service brake error on the dashboard when going down hills. There are certain places around here we know of that will happen, like going down Washington Pass on Highway 20. And when that happens, you don't know if it's a real brake error or not. Find a safe place to pull over. Pull over, get off the road, turn the engine off, count to 5, turn the engine back on. If the error clears, you have hit the brake controller error and you're safe to travel again. If it doesn't clear, you probably have a legitimate brake heating issue. Have the vehicle wait for 10-15 minutes to let the brakes cool. Turn the engine on and see if it clears. If it hasn't cleared, call us. You've reached a condition with the brakes that we have not had any of our customers reach before, and we're going to want to do some further diagnostics before you continue on your trip. If it does clear, you're free to take off and continue on your trip. And so that's all there is to know about the brakes. Regarding the emergency brakes, the emergency brake lever here is important to set anytime that you are parked at a camp spot, because this is a front wheel drive vehicle. When you have this in park, your front wheels are locked, but not your rear wheels. By setting the emergency brake, now you've got all 4 wheels locked. That's important, obviously. All right. The other thing that's worth noting is some simple adjustments for these seats for your own comfort. It takes some discussion. This lever right here moves these seats back and forth. On the side of the seats, right over here, there are knobs. This knob, when you turn it, will raise and lower the rear of the seat, and this knob here will raise and lower the front of the seat. To change the lumbar support for the seat, there's this knob right here. Okay, to change the angle of the back of the seat, this front corner on the outside of the vehicle pulls out, and then the seat back can be moved back and forth. Okay. All right, that's how that seat gets adjusted. Finally, the armrest has this knurled knob on it. What that does is it sets the height, the resting height of this armrest, so you can adjust it for your comfort as well. And that's all I have to tell you about this vehicle.